Welcome to the Plant-Based Podcast. Did you know that plants are truly amazing? Not only can you grow them and eat them, you can also wear them, drink them, nourish your skin with them, and so much more. Let Ellen and Michael inspire you to love plants as much as they do, as they chat with the movers and shakers in this wonderful plant-based world. So, let's dig in.
This episode of the Plant-Based Podcast is brought to you by our friends at Cobra. The Cobra range of garden machinery is constantly expanding and offers the UK's largest range of lawnmowers. With a comprehensive lineup of quality and innovative petrol, electric, battery and cordless products to tackle any gardening task, Cobra is the newest evolution in garden machinery. Visit cobragarden.co.uk for your chance to win a variety of great Cobra products.
So welcome guys, we're here today with Chris Bavin, and he's a TV presenter and fresh produce importer, and he's known most for co-presenting Eat Well for Less, Britain's Best Home Cook, and Britain in Bloom, amongst many other shows. But we want to talk to him today about eating plant-based for less.
This is one of my favourite topics, I might add. Anything eating plant-based is wonderful. And we know that you have a background in fresh food production. So it would be great if maybe we could kick off. Thank you for coming on the podcast to talk all about the Naked Grocer. Like, what does that mean? Were you just naked in the grocery store? What's it all about?
Straight in the deep end. Well, yeah. I thought we might build up to this, have a little preamble, straight in. That's good.
I want to know what the Naked Grocer is.
Okay, fine. Well, hello, and thank you ever so much for having me on your podcast. So the Naked Grocer is something that I started in 2009. I'd been involved in fresh produce my whole adult life. So I started importing fresh cut flowers and plants when I was about 16. So that's around 1996, which feels like a long time ago, which it is. Yeah. And then I did a few years, 5-6 years, roughly, maybe a little bit less, doing flowers, selling to the wholesale markets, New Covent Garden Market, all the different wholesale markets around the country. And then I took a sideways step into fresh produce. And again, that was supplying wholesale markets, New Covent Garden, Spitalfields, Western International in Manchester, Liverpool, Glasgow, Gateshead, every city around the country. And I took a real interest in not only my customers, which were the wholesale markets, but the customers, their customers. So the people that were buying from the wholesale markets. And that was street traders, barrow boys, greengrocers, farm shops, and these sorts of places. And I was just fascinated, and I thought these places were amazing. The produce that they offered was exceptional. I thought the value for money was really, really good. But all I kept hearing was they were dying out. The supermarkets, the retail multiples were sort of, taking over and closing. They're not responsible for the closure, but their growth was being met with the closure of lots of these smaller independent stores. And I just thought that didn't make sense. So I thought, I'm going to open a greengrocer's. This seems like the only logical thing to do. Having never worked in a shop, I thought I'll open my own, which I wouldn't necessarily recommend. But yeah, so what I wanted to do was get back to basics, to get back to the real fundamental propositions of selling anything really, but obviously in this case, fresh produce. And the emergence of packaging and single-use plastic was rife in the supermarkets. We were putting everything in plastic. You'd have a bunch of bananas in a plastic tray wrapped with plastic with a plastic bow on it with a bit of extra plastic just put on top just for good measure. And I just thought, this is ludicrous. We need to get back to just selling fruits and veg in the way that nature intended. Most of it has its own protective skin. Most of it has its own natural wrapping. There is no need for all this packaging. So I thought, let's open the Naked Grocer. The Naked Grocer is the actual definition. It's been a while. God, you've caught me out. This has been a while since I've talked about the Naked Grocer. I'd almost forgotten. I thought it was a bad dream. So the actual definition of the word naked is, the bare naked truth, without any pretense, without any addition. Just the bare basic facts of the matter. And that's what the Naked Grocer was all about. Selling stuff exactly as nature intended, without any of this packaging, the naked truth, the naked produce. It was obviously also a little bit memorable and a little cheeky, so we thought it would help capture the imagination. But this was in 2009, so we were one of the first zero waste, zero plastic stores to open.
That's
which
cool.
you can be I'd recommend being slightly ahead of a curve, but I wouldn't recommend being a decade in front of one, because it takes a bit of everyone's got to get used to the idea. But yeah, we had the shop for, I think it was around 7-8 years, did really, really well, won some awards, and I loved it. But it's a labor of love, and it's I miss it. It's a fabulous. To be part of a community and to be really welcomed and supported and play quite a significant role within a community is just quite a powerful thing. Really quite. It's a huge privilege, and it was a huge honor. And we would have people come in, pregnant. Not exclusively, it wasn't just a shop for pregnant people, but you would have someone coming in, expecting a child, and then before you know it, that child was coming in with the list, with their shopping, and it was just, and you saw, families evolve and grow and change, and it was just amazing. It was just
really
a real
cool.
one.
Like that kind of makes a community. Going back to the basics, how nature intended actually does create a community, because people connect with it better. I can remember finding some apples in a hotel. So they had like a big bowl, all the apples, but each individual apple was wrapped in cling film.
Oh wow.
This was pre-COVID as well. And I actually went to reception and was like, why? Why? And she's like, well, it was in America. Yeah. But she was like, oh, well, it's to keep them clean. And I was like, are you kidding me? Is this a joke? But I've seen that in loads of places. Why?
Yeah, it's outrageous. And the plastic, the use of single-use, or the amount of single-use plastic we're using is just, it's unforgivable. Really, it's got out of hand, and I think we were making some good strides towards reducing, and then I think COVID has probably set us back a bit. But hopefully, as if we are to emerge out of this COVID situation, hopefully we can sort of play catch up and start to make some big inroads in it again. But it is just bonkers. It's absolutely bonkers, and it's unnecessary. It's expensive. Listen, it's expensive. It costs. Packaging costs. It's obviously horrendous for the environment, and the consumers don't want it, and they say that they don't want it over and over again. But now we've got this sort of loggerhead between retailer and manufacturer and us as the public, and they're saying, well, you guys want it, you're buying it continually, so you're sort of showing us that you like it, and we're saying, no, we don't like it, but you're not giving us a fair choice. And they say, well, we have given you the choice, but you sort of keep showing us that you like this option. So we're it's a bit of a catch-22. They don't want to stop and completely eradicate it or invest heavily in changing it, because they think we still like it and we still want it, and given a 50-50 choice, we will take the plastic option. And we're saying, look, at the moment, we don't have enough choice to really vote with our feet and turn our backs on it completely. There's also other factors that loose produce or selling stuff loose has challenges for retailers, big retailers, in a sense that every checkout point, every transaction, every interaction and transaction that you have with that product or that article is slower, and time is money, and checkout speeds and queues are something that supermarkets are really measured on. It's how they measure their success in a lot of ways. So scanning a barcode of 6 apples is as quick as anything. Putting them on, picking the thing. What are they? Gala, Braeburn, 6, weight, slow. So, or they give you the option to buy loose, and then you must put it in a plastic bag anyway. So, but we are hopefully moving towards a better place. I think we are learning, we are getting better, but we've got.
I think there's definitely signs of improvement, but the thing about time is money drives me absolutely mad, because everything is driven by money at the end of the day. But ultimately, that will be the downfall, because we can't carry on in the way that we are. And so I can tell how passionate you are about it. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, I think it's
going.
Yeah, no, and there's lots of people. There's lots of amazing people doing lots of incredible work. So yeah, we've just all got to, but ultimately it comes down to us as consumers, as people. I think what we've got to understand is in America they say every dollar's a vote, and it's true. Every pound is a vote. Every time it's a choice, isn't it? You make choices, and you make choices for lots of different reasons. But every time you spend your hard-earned money, you are validating, corroborating, accepting, or choosing something. And I think we've got to we can't underestimate the power, because it's only me. If I don't buy my bananas from there, what difference does it make? But if we all, or not even all, if lots of us did it, they would soon say, "There's a problem here. We need to fix this."
Yeah,
and that's where we need to be, and we need to do that across lots of things. But
it's trying to find a balance. I quite often say on here that humans never get a balance, do they? We're either one or the other. Why can't we just have a bit of a balance there?
The pendulum always swings, doesn't it? Quite heavily.
It sure does.
Way. So you go from one extreme to the other, and hopefully you sort of find a point where you might settle in the middle. But we're not. Yeah. We don't appear to be in the middle. At the moment, we're lurching to the extremes in lots of different cases, and it's quite saddening, really. But I think what we've always got to remember, and this is slightly off topic, but I think we've always got to remember that actually deep down we are A, all the same, and B, all decent. Actually 99.9% of us are good, honest, sound people. And I think these differences and these the conflicts are manufactured and manipulated and blown up, and we've got to remember that actually we're all the same.
This is interesting, because we actually interviewed somebody yesterday, Nelifar Hedayat, and she has produced a series called Food Exposed, and she said exactly the same thing as you then. She said 99% of us, we are good people. It's just hard to be good. And understand and be educated in what is right. But given the choice, the majority of us will do the right thing if we know what it is and whatnot. So yeah, anyway, very same thing.
Yeah. So clearly you were very ahead of your time with the Naked Grocer and everything that followed. But then at some point you made a move into TV, and we just want to delve into that a little bit, because you've obviously presented programs to do with food, which we're going to talk about in part 2, but you also presented Britain in Bloom. So you must have slight green fingers.
I do. I have a horticultural background, but I'm not a horticulturalist. I'm not a qualified horticulturalist by any stretch of imagination. I'm not qualified in anything. I probably should caveat every point I say with that. I'm wildly underqualified to say this, but yeah. So I started off importing fresh cut flowers and plants from around the world and selling into the wholesale markets. The first time I walked into New Covent Garden Market, flower market, it just blew my mind. I think I was 16, 17, and it was just, wow, this amazing array of flowers and plants and foliage. And it was just, wow, this is just bonkers, beautiful. And we had a flower shop, which was part of the Naked Grocer. There was the Naked Florist, and again, no cellophane and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, just love flowers and love plants. And my dad was a keen gardener and used to propagate his own plants and grow stuff. And I was unfortunately not beneficial to him at that time. I spent more time breaking the panes of glass in his greenhouse, much to his annoyance. I regularly would do that. But yeah, my dad was a keen gardener and had sort of dreams of being self-sufficient and growing all his own food and stuff. I've loved flowers, plants, gardening. And I think actually as we sort of develop, for want of a better word, because I'm not sure we are progressing as people. I think we need gardening, and I think we need nature more. And I got the opportunity to do a program called Britain in Bloom, which was just basically following the existing competition that the RHS run every year, which is just an extraordinary thing. And we did 2 series of that, and that was just a joy and a privilege, going around the country, seeing what all volunteers are doing to make their communities nicer. And it's just wonderful. The power of gardening is really quite significant. And now, obviously, the NHS and GP surgeries around the country are even prescribing gardening. As if you think about what are the issues that are facing us at the moment: mental health, physical health, and really environmental challenges. And actually, gardening really can help with all of those 3 things in varying degrees, but quite, I would say, quite significant. It's obviously personal, but I think it's amazing. And you go to sensory gardens in hospitals or hospices, and it's just such an amazing thing, and evokes such great emotions and benefits in people that I think we should all be trying to do it to some degree or another. Look, I understand. I think lots of us have realised actually in lockdown that gardens are a real privilege that maybe we didn't really understand before. Obviously it was always lovely to have a garden, but I think actually those of us that are lucky enough to have a garden really, really felt that.
100%. And we know that the horticulture industry has definitely grown throughout lockdown. So many more people have been interested in growing their own food and just appreciating their back gardens more as well. So I mean, that's really good for the future too. So hopefully all, if not the majority of those that have been enjoying it the last year, carry on. So had you done any TV work before you started to present Britain in Bloom?
Were you headhunted on the market, or how did it all work?
Pretty much. I was so we had the Naked Grocer, and we won a few awards. So best green grocer in the UK, independent retailer of the year, etc. And unbeknownst to me, that really throws you up search engines on the internet. So we got a lot of local press about it, which was great for us because it told our immediate community and vicinity about us. So we got lots of local coverage, great. But then what that does is, in the absence of national media, local media is really quite high in a search engine. So if you've never been written about by the national media, but you have been written about, or something has been written about in local media, if you were to Google greengrocer, I would come up quite high. Probably even the top at the time, So somewhat a researcher has Googled greengrocer. I've come up, they phoned me up, said, have you ever thought about being on telly? And I promise you, it had never, ever even crossed my mind for a split second. I think now if you asked kids, what do you want to do? They might say vlogger, blogger, YouTuber, telly, whatever. But for me, it felt like it wasn't even an option. It wasn't even on my radar. So I sort of I said that it's probably not for me. I was working about 90, 100-hour weeks at the time because I had the shop. I also had another business. So I was busy and thought they'd probably give me like 50 or £100 and drive me mad for a week or two, and then that would be that. I didn't ever think this is a career. This is the new career. So I sort of said, "I'm probably okay, but thanks, I'm flattered." But luckily, thank goodness, they persevered, and we ended up making a pilot for Eat Well for Less, which wasn't called Eat Well for Less at the time. I think it was called something like The Secret Life of My Food. But we made the pilot. Then we sort of tweaked it, played around with it, and then it was the Eat Well for Less that you would know and recognise now. And 8 years later, we're still doing it, and other shows have come off the back of it. And it's been just an incredible journey, and one that I'm humble and privileged to have been on.
Sometimes life takes us in directions we would never have imagined. What you're doing is getting word out there about the importance of food. And we're going to be talking more about barriers to plant-based eating, how people can eat more plants, incorporate them in a diet in part 2 as well. So thank you so much. We'll be back in just a moment.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Or good morning.
Indeed.
We are Joey and Katie, veg-centric food bloggers, recipe writers, and happy contributors to the Plant-Based Podcast. Thanks, as ever, for having us in your ears.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Pride Month, and as an out and proud couple, we wanted to share with you the most colourful recipe we know. It's our rainbow roasted roots on toast, and it's a veritable riot of colour, flavour, texture, and lunchtime joy.
That's right. This one is as camp and colourful as can be and undoubtedly bring a smile to your face. There are 3 parts to this recipe. Well, 4 if you count making toast, but we'll let that slip through.
Part 1. Whiz up a beetroot dip to slather on charred sourdough. This is a simple matter of blending cooked beetroot, shop bought is absolutely fine, with some feta, lemon juice, tahini and garlic. It's rich and smooth with a lovely sweet savoury balance. Natural sweetness comes from the beets and savoury depth from the garlic and tahini.
Part 2. Some banging roasted veggies, namely organic carrots and whole spring onions, tossed with ras al hanout, chili flakes, and a tiny drizzle of honey or maple syrup to encourage a little char during roasting and add a deeper, more complex sweetness.
Delicious. Part 3, our all-time favourite flavour hack, dukkha. You may well be familiar with dukkha, but if it's a new ingredient to you, hold on to your hat. Speedy lunches are about to get much more interesting. It's an Egyptian nut, seed and spice blend that one can batch make and sprinkle on almost any soup, stew, dal, open sandwich, you name it. You can find a winning recipe for a big old batch of dukkha on our website, www.joeyandkatiecook.co.uk.
And that's it. Smush your bright pink beetroot dip onto your charred sourdough, pile high your colourful carrots and roasted spring onions, sprinkle liberally with fragrant and textural dukkha, and drizzle with a little extra virgin olive oil because, well, that final flourish of good fat is everything.
It is. If things on toast, air quotes there, is your kind of food and smashed avo is a thing of the past, we have a whole recipe section on our website called Toast Toppers that's packed with exciting toasties, bruschettas, dips. Please do check it out.
For more veg-centric seasonal recipe inspiration, have a peek on www.joeyandkatiecook.co.uk. That's Katie with a Y. And follow us on Instagram at Joey and Katie Cook.
Thank you for listening. Happy cooking and happy Pride.
Love is love, and so too is nourishing, colourful, flavoursome food. See you next time.
Tomorrow is the beginning of British Flowers Week 2021. Led by the iconic new Covent Garden Flower Market, British Flowers Week is a nationwide celebration of all things British flowers, foliage and plants.
Like you, New Covent Garden Market are passionate about plants and gardens. As with last year, they are calling on all of us who share a love of the UK's floristry and plant-based horticultural industry to show our support for all involved by having fun and decorating our windows with a single stem, a bouquet made from homegrown or shop-bought flowers, foliage, plants, or a grand, spectacular display.
Oh, yeah. So whatever you put in your window, you'll be showing your support. You'll also be giving anyone passing by something gorgeous to look at.
So please take part by placing something in your window, snapping a picture of it, no matter how simple, and sharing it using the hashtag British Flowers Week.
For more information on what's on during the week, including a competition for those windows, you can go to britishflowersweek.com. Go on, what are you waiting for? I'm obsessed with edible flowers and anything like that. So.
Well, microgreens are booming now, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely.
And I just did a piece on microgreens. I think what we've got to do is we've got to try and turn the dial a little bit, because at the moment, all of this sort of stuff is garnishy, leafy, you know, and I think this microgreens, vertical farming, new way of growing, it has an enormous potential, but I think we've got to just elevate it. We've got to put some more main crop in there somehow, you know, and then I think that, you know, but obviously space is an issue, and at the moment a lot of it is cut and come again, which is brilliant. It's great, and it can fix a problem and can serve a purpose, but it's a narrow one at the moment. I think we need to widen that with a bit of luck. But microgreens are fascinating. They reckon that anywhere it might have between 4 and 40 times the nutrients of its fully grown counterpart, you know, which is bonkers, isn't it? And I suppose the way to think about it is like a glass of squash, maybe, that the more you put in, actually, you're just, you know, the bigger, the taller, the fuller the glass gets. is just diluting it. The nutrients or the squash is there in the beginning, and then anything that gets. So if these award-winning marrows, at the country fairs and stuff, negligible nutrients because it can't continually get that much goodness, can it? So it does make sense, but it's also slightly mind-blowing as well. Sorry, talked through your point.
I do apologise. Microgreens taste so good.
Yeah.
Like the flavour's so concentrated. I always say if you don't like sprouts, actually grow microgreens, sprouts as microgreens, cut them off when they're no more than about 10 centimetres. You will actually probably enjoy the flavour of those more than the actual mature sprout as well.
Sprouts are one of my favourite veg.
Me too. But lots of people don't like sprouts.
And I will never understand that. Would never understand.
Microgreens, for a lot of people, they just see it as an extension to cress and how do you use cress. But I use microgreens on top of bolognese or chili or just any sort of topping in order to get that goodness in. So
I chuck them in smoothies. Like you can pack them on in a smoothie. And I love
really intense flavour.
I'm really rubbish at growing basil. It's just like a thing for me I'm not any good at. But when you grow the little microgreen basils, you get it's just tiny, but you get all the flavour and all of the nutrition. You don't have to worry about growing the plant that I can't keep alive, as long as you can just get them to like this high.
I love that. Sorry, this is a microgreens tangent now, but I love any unusual edible. In Holland, I've often had a kind of sweet microgreen, I think it's like an agastache seedling.
Yes.
Okay.
And you'd have that on top of desserts, and that is cool because microgreens are not just savoury as well.
Yeah,
you can get sweet.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, basil, as you mentioned there, actually that can unlock some of these flavours when combined together can unlock completely different flavour profiles. And actually basil, when mixed with some sweetness, can actually bring out a completely different flavour. A lot of these microgreens have a real nuttiness.
Yeah.
Lots of them have like a peppery tone or like a wasabi sort of flavour. But actually, you can get a nuttiness from them, which then would lend itself super, super well to sweets. So you could be putting some really good nutrition on your ice cream, for example. So why not? Let's not limit microgreens to
that's an
flavours.
idea.
Yeah.
Basil microgreens on strawberry ice cream.
Yeah.
There you go.
There you go.
But the problem we have is the majority just want to eat the same stuff all the time, and people aren't adventurous. I find it such a barrier because I'm always happy to try new stuff, but the majority don't, do they?
I think the fear is, especially with families, is if I buy some ingredients, create something new, and then however many faces around that table turn their noses up, it's a waste of money, food, time, and then I've still got to cook something else, and I think that's the problem. And I think what you might see is, some weekend experimentation, or when you're entertaining, you might try new things, but then maybe actually when you're entertaining, that's the last, probably the worst possible time to experiment with new flavors and dishes because you want to know it's going to work. So you're right. I think there is a reluctance, to try new things. But I think, we should always try because you never know. You could find the next basil and strawberry ice cream sundae.
Exactly. I think this is a product. I think this is a new product. So talking just specifically then about plant-based eating, you've obviously done a lot of work in this arena. What are the barriers that you see to plant-based eating? I know there's, obviously like cost and time, and I don't know, but what do you see as the barrier?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? So lots of people come to it for lots of different reasons. And there's so many variables within that. So I would say primarily the reasons most people would find themselves eating a plant-based diet is either welfare, animal welfare, health, or environment, generally. And I think there's probably question marks over two of those reasons. I don't think that it is a foregone conclusion, and I don't think it's without argument. I think if you give me the reason that it's an animal welfare, I think that is absolutely your choice, and there is no argument with that. I don't feel comfortable eating animals or the product of animals. Then absolutely, you're well within your rights, and that is your your reason, your truth, and that's absolutely fine. The health one is interesting because actually I know some vegans with atrocious diets. Lots of carbohydrates, lots of chips, lots of crisps, lots of breads.
You can be a junk food vegan.
We've actually
and it's
got
so
a junk
easy.
food vegan on order for lunchtime.
We have got junk food. It's kind of like lots of people ask me these questions about being vegan, and I'm kind of like, well, vegan and plant-based is actually a little bit different, because plant-based means you are eating majority plants, and then there's whole food plants, like where your diet is completely plants. But you can be vegan and still eat really bad food.
Go nowhere near a vegetable.
Yeah.
Ironically, you're absolutely right. And then the environmental one is really quite interesting, because there are, obviously meat has a significantly higher carbon footprint than vegetables. If we're talking locally, seasonal, if you're talking about putting an avocado on an aeroplane and flying it here, or you're talking about almond milk, harvested at the other side of the world, put in a plastic cart and brought here, I would say there are lots and lots of grey areas around that. Actually, would you be better off having a bit of British lamb with some, locally grown potatoes and cabbage, or quinoa and avocado flown from the other side of the world? I think there's lots of different questions about that. So, I think, and depending on what the reason you're coming to this diet is, will then determine, the best way to do it. But I think cost is perceived as a barrier. I don't think it should be. I think there is nothing cheaper than veg, pulses and legumes. They are, three of the cheapest food products out there. Onions, you don't find many things cheaper than onions, carrots, cabbage, potatoes, kidney beans, chickpeas, pulses, like all of the. It's as cheap as can be, isn't it? It requires cooking. It requires a bit of knowledge. It requires a bit of effort, and I think we're so governed by getting flavour from fat being predominantly from, animals. So it's about sort of shifting the change there. But look, I could make the most amazing vegan curry that is so full of flavour that you wouldn't want anything else. So I think it's just that. And I think you need to be more organised if you're going plant-based. I think, that whole, I haven't got anything for lunch, what am I going to do? Is so much harder. There is a whole grab and go, ready to eat world out there that isn't quite fully geared up to catering to plant-based needs yet. So I think you need to be a bit more organised if that's something that you want to do.
I think we're getting there, aren't we? Because I found that I'm able to grab and go a little bit more now than I could have done years ago. So I think it's changing a little bit, which is good. Overseas is a nightmare. Actually, traveling overseas can be really difficult depending on where you're going. But I think overall, I do definitely see a change where things are a little bit more accessible. But I think the key to that is what you were saying about vegetables, legumes, all of the things that you would eat as part of a good vegan diet. So easy, so cheap. And once you've got yourself a few recipes and you know what you're doing, you just get on a bit of a roll with it. I don't find it takes me any more time now, but yes, in the beginning, you go on a bit of a journey, like 2 or 3 months. Probably took me a while to settle into it and kind of know what food I would cook and what goes with what and how much time I needed to be a bit more prepared. But I think you go through that, you kind of bust through it, after about 2 or 3 months, and it just becomes life. It just becomes part of your life. I don't really think about it. And I guess
on the plus side, a lot of people have potentially got more time to actually devote to cooking and trying recipes. So this is one of the best times ever to recruit plant-based eaters, isn't it?
No, absolutely. And meat is one of the most expensive food groups. Meat is by comparison much more expensive than all those other plant-based, naturally whole foods in the world of veg and stuff. So there is a good opportunity to maybe even make some savings. So I have heard the argument that eating healthily is more expensive, and it's exactly the same argument for plant-based and eating healthily are more expensive. They 100% should not be. If you are buying solutions, so if you're buying a pre-packaged made health food, yes, you will pay a premium for it. If you are buying a pre-packaged, pre-made plant-based food, yes, you will pay more money for it because it's a niche market. They don't have the economies of scale. And also, generally, the target market, the demographic, is prepared or able to pay more money. One of those two things, possibly both at the same time. So that's why you pay more money. And there's incredible marketing and everything's got graffiti on the packaging and all of that sort of stuff, which obviously needs to be paid for. But if you are cooking yourself and preparing your own food at home from scratch, then there's no reason that it should cost more money. It should even save you money.
If you have the opportunity and in your circumstance, be able to grow some of your own food, perhaps that can really supplement your diet as well. Like I grow loads of fruit and vegetables, but it doesn't feed us entirely. I still have to buy some other food, but if you can supplement that, if you have access to a garden or allotment,
what you can grow.
And be realistic about it, but use that as much as you can. That's a good thing as well, if you can. But what we want to know is, are you a keen cook as well at home?
Very much, yeah. No, I love cooking. I've always actually, ever since I was young, I've always enjoyed cooking and experimenting with different things and playing around with different ingredients and stuff. And so actually came to it quite young, sort of self-taught. And then when I got sort of involved in the fresh produce world, seeing all these amazing different ingredients and fresh herbs and, samphire for the first time and edible flowers and, okra and all of these weird and wonderful things that I'd never ever come in contact with, and taking them home and playing around with them and experimenting and stuff. So yeah, I'm a passionate cook, just a home cook as well, though never I've not been taught and I've never worked in a professional kitchen, but yeah, I'm a passionate home cook.
Maybe a professional kitchen is next. The Naked Chef, is there already a Naked Chef?
I think that might have been taken.
Jamie Oliver, wasn't it?
Oh,
well, you never hear of him anymore, do you?
No.
Who? The Naked Grocer turned chef.
But you've done your own as well. Have you got much space there to grow? Do you grow a lot of your own veg?
We do bits and pieces. We do it more for an activity to do with the children.
Yeah.
I am fully at peace with the fact that growers and breeders can do a much better job than I, and I'm very lucky to work in the world of fresh produce. So, I can buy the best strawberries from the best grower, from the best variety, and my strawberries don't taste as good. I know everyone says, nothing quite tastes as good as something you've grown yourself, and I get that. And there is an element of that. But also the people that have invested tens of millions of pounds and 3 or 4 generations in growing the best strawberry, I think they are better than I am. So I'll leave the experts to do it. But we grow for the kids, which is brilliant. It's a great experience, a great lesson. It teaches them lots. I grow lots of herbs, and we do grow, every year we do some tomatoes, some potatoes, and some cabbage and bits and pieces. We let them pick a few things that they grow. And it shows them lots of really good lessons. You have to be disciplined. You have to make sure that you're out there every day, looking after it, watering it, and just to see something grow from a seed.
Yeah,
it's best
magical.
Thing it's magic, isn't it? It's actually magic. So yeah, that's and they love it. And getting out and getting their hands dirty and the pride that they take from that is just off the charts. So
you do
amazing.
It for the enjoyment and to teach a kid, like kids, where food comes from, and that's a really important lesson. There's so many children who eat and don't even know how a potato was grown, and we know that from research as well.
Well, they don't even they don't even eat it while it looks like a potato.
Yeah, so they don't even know what it would have looked like when it was grown. So that's a really important lesson. So,
as well, I think obviously lockdown sort of posed the question of, self-sufficiency and grow your own and all of this. And I think what is really important, and this is something that I'm very passionate about, is that everything has to be inclusive, and growing your own feels at a glance to be not very inclusive. But I would just like to say to everybody, I mean, obviously most people coming to this podcast are probably, fairly well versed in this, but you can grow in an old yogurt pot or an old ice cream tub, and you don't even need to go and buy seeds. You can take seeds from food that you've got at home. So if you've got some tomatoes, just cut the tomato, clean the seeds out, and you can do it for no money. Basically, you could get a bit of dirt from outside, some seeds from some food that you've already got, and grow it on your windowsill in an old reused tub or something. And I think that's the message that I would like to get out there, that you can do it with anything. There's no limit. So and I would highly recommend everybody having a go at growing something, even if it's just on the windowsill.
Well, we do like that bit of advice, that's for sure. So before we finish up, do you have kind of top 3 tips perhaps of how people could incorporate more plants into their diets?
Easy
tips.
I think the first thing is to plan. You have to meal plan. You can't sort of come into the kitchen at 6:25 thinking, right, what's for dinner? What are we going to have? And then trying to look around and trying to, make something out of what you've got. The way we approach cooking at home is very similar to cooking challenges on lots of cookery programs on telly, i.e. here's some random ingredients, make something delicious, you've got 20 minutes, go. That is a difficult thing to do, which is why people make a competition out of it. Why are we putting that pressure on ourselves at home, in our own homes on a daily basis? Meal planning is the key to everything. So sit down with everybody in your family, write a meal plan that everybody has involvement in, and then what you're going to be eating. When you know what you're going to be eating, and that can give you some room for experimenting and trying some new things. Maybe you have, a day of the week where you try something new and something a bit more adventurous and bold. But what you're going to eat every day of the week. Then you write your shopping list from that, and now you've got your meal plan and your list of things that you need to buy or grow. Obviously, you'd have to meal plan a little bit longer in advance. But, then you've got a really good opportunity to incorporate more veg, more plants, everything into your diet, because you've got everything. There's no point in going, I really fancy a Thai curry, but I don't have this or that or whatever. So make sure you've got the ingredients. I think in terms of getting more plant-based food into your diet is again, preparation. Always have kidney beans soaking, or some pulses or legumes ready to just throw into a dish, which not only increases the health benefit, but actually lots more fiber in your diet, and also gives you that ability to put more pulses, legumes, or more of your five a day into your diet. And I suppose, experiment as well. Try things, have a look through, flick through. Yeah, we've got a plethora, millions and millions of amazing recipes online. Have a look online, see what you fancy and give it a go. But even if for me, small sustainable change is brilliant. I think going from one extreme to another, as we spoke about earlier, seldom works in the long term. So if you are an committed carnivore that eats meat 7 days a week, try one day. Try having one meat-free day.
Yeah.
And see how you get on. And then that one day might turn to 2. You can make small changes, supplementing, dairy milk for plant-based milks. They're great. They're enormous at the moment. I think there's so many ways and opportunities of going a bit more plant-based if you so desire. One thing I would recommend as well is there's a machine that you put oats in and water. It's like a you basically blitz it up. So just Google, or other search engines are available, oat milk maker.
Yeah. So
you literally just put oats in and water, blitz it up, and you get fresh oat milk every single day. It'll cost about £100, but a litre of oat milk is about £1.50.
Yeah,
with the Tetra Pak and all of that.
Yeah.
So, if you use oat milk or you want to start using oat milk, small investment in the beginning, get this thing, and then you can have fresh oat milk every day without the packaging. And instead of £1.50, you're talking probably 15, 20 pence for a handful of oats.
Yeah, that's a very good tip.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to do, and it tastes so much better.
Tastes better. Yeah.
Really good. Yeah.
Can't shop bought almond milk. I can't drink. I don't. It's not for me. I really find it unpleasant. But if you make your own almond milk, it's amazing, delicious. And then you got all of this byproduct, which is in this case, chop loads of amazingly beautifully fine chopped almonds or leftover oats that you can then put that into your whatever breads, cakes, have it with like as porridge, whatever, so trying to use as much as everything, we've got to reduce our food waste. We want to reduce that,
Yes, we do. Totally.
Definitely.
I couldn't agree more with that. Make your own milk.
Yeah. Oh, wow. We could talk to you for hours. It's really cool to just bounce around kind of plant-based ideas. And, who knows, one day I might be totally plant-based. So,
well, I keep trying.
There's no better time than now because, products are getting more widely available, more knowledge, more time that hopefully people have to make.
Didn't you do the January one?
I did it for 36 hours, I think it was.
This is really bad.
Sorry.
That you couldn't do it for longer than 36 hours.
I know, but my problem then, which might be different now, is that I was traveling a lot. And when you are on the road, you kind of need sustenance, and to do that in a vegan way is difficult.
But also, you learn what foods you can have. Like, there's some really surprising foods that are accidentally vegan. Yeah. So you kind of know if you were
chips.
If you were to not all chips, because they might be fried in beef fat. So you might I stop for fuel, it's like I kind of know what I might pick up that's vegan, like the accidentally vegan
you get
stuff.
Used to it,
you just get used to it. So
and you zone out the other stuff.
Travel is harder, but you can do it.
And I think that's actually a really good point, that my wife's gluten-free. So finding those foods that are naturally or accidentally gluten-free is so much better than buying the branded, marketed gluten-free version. And you're absolutely right. Some products are accidentally or naturally vegan. Try and find as many of those as you can, because you won't be paying a premium. Whereas if something's marketed as vegan, there will be a premium there. So something like, the ready-made pre-rolled pastry. So you can get puff, short crust, whatever. That's all vegan.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
So they don't use animal fat in it. Yeah. So, that's something that you would automatically assume has butter in it, but it doesn't because of the viability, the cost of it. They use a plant-based fat.
I find it really funny how we do say something without meat or dairy is the odd thing. But actually, to me, that's the natural state of things. Adding meat and dairy is the unnatural bit of it. That's how I see it. It's like organic and non-organic farming. Like, people always say organic is the new weird thing. Yeah. But actually, that's the actual natural state of things. And then we add to it.
We've become so out of touch with...
Yeah. Anyway. And that reminds me of a poster, and it just stayed with me. I was coming up the escalator in the underground in London, and it was love food, hate waste, and they had a series of posters up, and one of them just almost knocked me over with its simplicity and its beauty, and it was, when did it get weirder to throw food away than share it?
That's so true.
Have I said that the right way? When did it get weirder to I don't know which way around, but it's if you knocked on someone's door and said, I've got this left over, or this is about to, would you like it? They'd be like, what are you doing? This is bonkers. But we think throwing food away is okay.
That's what we would have done. We would have shared our food. We would have gone to our neighbour or our family member, and we would have shared what we had. That community thing, we've lost that kind of whole community. I think in many aspects of life personally, and food definitely being one of them. But that's another big topic, isn't it? Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today. It's been really good fun chatting with you. We love everything that you've been doing. So we hope our listeners look you up and check you out and see what you're up to next. Do you have anything cool coming up next? Anything on the agenda you can tell us before we finish up?
I am currently filming an Eat Well for Less, Shop Well for Less amalgamation with an environmental skew. So we're doing, an environmentally friendly, how can you live and eat in the most sustainable, environmentally friendly way without it sort of costing you lots more money or without having to walk around in a hemp smock, and going off grid. How can we find that balance between practicality, busy working lives and reducing our impact on the environment, whether it be food or other lifestyle choices. So we're doing that. There's lots of plant-based conversations in that program. So make sure you watch that. I think beef has 200%, emits 200% more carbon than a nut. Interesting.
You eat that.
Has nuts on his beef. That's how he is.
I think we need to have you back on because there's so much more to say and it's really thought provoking as well. Yeah. But thank you for today very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Yeah, thank you.
Lovely to meet you both. I feel like I know you from social media as you do now. You sort of you see someone and you go, I know you. Obviously I don't. But thank you ever so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, no worries. Hopefully meet you one day. So
I'm sure we will.
Thank you.
No worries. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Take care. All the best.
Hey there, it's Tom from Forage and Folklore Tours. I'm here to talk to you today about actually a tree, and more specifically the flowers on the tree that we're really keen on foraging around this time of year. The blooms have come out slightly late, but it's actually just about right. It's an easy to recognize tree, and actually a lot of people already know about it because most people like to use the flowers for cordials. I'm of course talking about the elder tree. Now, elders are really fascinating. They're actually sort of considered to be like the pharmacy of the woods. The flowers can be used medicinally for a whole sort of different stuff. It's just generally good to take when you're not feeling well, but it actually can treat hay fever, which is really good for this time of year, and if you're like me and suffer from seasonal allergies. But what's really fascinating about the elder tree, besides cordials and then the eventual elderberry wines and things you can make later in the year, is its association with witchcraft. It's actually said that elder trees are themselves witches that have shapeshifted and they're all planted in the ground. So having said this, it's very taboo to cut elder trees or take anything without at least asking or giving some kind of gift to the tree. Besides the cordials, though, you can use elderflowers in teas, or you can actually make incenses out of them as well, which actually Ashley does after drying them out. It smells wonderful, and I definitely highly recommend trying that. There's a few trees that have similar looking flowers on them, so if you are going looking for them, please do make sure that you bring your ID books and you identify the flowers correctly before using them. Anyhow, I'm Tom from Forage and Folklore Tours. If you want to follow us on Facebook or Instagram, just look up Forage Folklore Tours or go to our website, forageandfolklore.com. Thanks.
Cobra is the very proud partner of Series 4 of the Plant-Based Podcast, joining in the celebration of plants, gardens and outdoor living. With over 60 models of lawnmowers available in the Cobra range, there's something for every garden. As a special offer for our listeners, Cobra is offering the chance to win exclusive prizes. Head over to cobragarden.co.uk to find out more.
Hey, we're sitting on logs.
You're a log.
I think that's like the opening to every gossip ever. We're doing something and then you call me whatever it is that we're doing. I'm drinking an orange and Michael says, you're an orange.
But we're here at Seagate Iris's. Oh my God, I'm so excited to be here. I dropped by a couple of weeks ago and I was like, Oh my gosh! And I've been like messaging you like every day. Like, is it ready yet? Is it ready
yet? That's worrying for you. So
Chris, welcome to our little gossipy section of the podcast.
Yeah, great to be here.
Your first time on a podcast.
It is your first time.
You must be a mixture of excited and nervous and
Great to have you guys here when it's all in flower.
Oh, definitely. Oh my God! But I just remember growing iris with my grandma. It's just amazing. And you've got some of those varieties here and the fragrance. And I think before today, Ellen, you hadn't got closer to an iris. You didn't realise there's such a complex fragrance.
I'd kind of like sniffed the ones in my garden, but walking in here, it just smells like a whole wave of sweetness. But then each of them obviously individually smell different. But I was blown away by some of those fragrances.
There's some lovely pockets of scent as you go around, isn't there?
Yeah.
Especially on a still day.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful.
God, tell us the story of Seagate though.
Yeah, so we came in as a customer like just over 3 years ago.
So you were a customer?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I've known the place for about 12, 15 years and came in for an odd plant. Heard that it was for sale, didn't realise. I've been looking for like a piece of land to start a nursery on for a few years, and then just a chance opportunity. Just dived in passionately, feet first. Yeah,
that's awesome.
What was your background though? Were you working in plants before?
No, not really. Like landscaping, tree work, farm work. Bit of everything really.
Right.
Always outside.
And you just saw this and thought, that's what we're going to do.
Just had to do it. Yeah, took some convincing with my wife, but
how does she feel about it now?
No, loves it now. Yeah.
Oh, this is a dream for
It's a lifestyle change.
Kind of thing,
Were you in the area anyway?
Yeah, so we're about 15 minutes away.
Okay.
So it's not too bad.
You knew it for many years, because I've been driving past here for years and kind of always seen it, but never stopped until now.
We're in a funny place because a lot of people pass, a lot of people see us, but don't get the opportunity to come in. So it's good to, like with social media and what have you, to be able to sort of get a wider audience and show everyone what we've got. So
I've definitely noticed recently that you've been doing more on social media than ever before. Because the same as you, I've driven past quite a few times. And then you started popping up on socials quite a lot, and it just constantly reminds you, you must go. You must go. But I love the fact that you just thought, I'm just going to go for this. I'm just going to do it like this. Look, and you're
it was
here
just as simple as that.
I love that. We should all do that. But I've got to just say before we carry on, when we got here, Michael literally ran.
I did. I was well excited.
He literally ran through the pathways, through the beds, like in pure excitement, which was, I might add, absolutely lovely to see.
I've never seen iris fields en masse before. I've been to lots of different breeding sites, but this is just something else. Yeah. Definitely. But you're not breeding your own here, are you? But you are bringing in from a lot of different breeders. Are they in the UK, across Europe?
That's right, yeah. So we work from breeders in the UK. One in particular.
Like one-man bands or businesses?
Yeah, some of them. Yeah. So one chap in particular called Gary Middleton, who's in sort of Hitchin. Okay. We work with him, so his plants tend to be good, strong plants because they're bred in this country. And he particularly grows for good garden plants, which is something I'm passionate about, is growing good, strong plants that people can grow easily at home. But we also buy in some other bits. So we worked with an American breed last year from a company called Iris for You. We worked with him and brought a few of his over. So that was kind of
cool. And are you focusing many? I know in the US there's a lot of reblooming varieties with this and Hemeracalis as well. Do you have many reblooming ones? Because to me, iris are beautiful, but they're gone after a couple of weeks, aren't they? And I'm just like, stay.
No. We've got about 250, 300 varieties now, but I'm kind of keeping them a bit quiet. You don't see them on the social media too much because I'm trying to build the stocks up ready so that we've got them available for most people.
So reblooming will be a big launch for you soon.
That's exciting.
Cool. Is that an exclusive scoop? Because we are the Horticultural Heat magazine,
There's some really weird and wacky ones too. There's some old varieties that are known for being rebloomers over the years, but there's some that are quite new to the market, and some of them are new introductions to the country as well. So
I don't mind that they only bloom for a few weeks because it's so special when they do bloom. You kind of wait, do you know what I mean? And when they kind of unfurl out of the bud thing, like spectacular.
Such a moment, isn't it?
And it's like a special moment in early summer, so I kind of think that's nice. But I mean, I'm all up for reblooming, I might add, but I don't mind that it's not very long,
Just saying, I was always told that irises are like event flowers. Yes, they spend a lot of time building up to it, but it's such an event when they flower.
Yeah,
it's worth it.
Exactly.
And if you can get another shot later on, that's great.
Yeah.
The only trouble with reblooming irises sometimes is how they look with autumn plantings. If they rebloom in August, September, so it's quite unusual to see an iris at that time of year with what else is out in the garden.
Sure.
So it's a new concept really for planting.
But good for autumn Chelsea.
Yeah, exactly.
Irises Chelsea in September this year. Who would have thought you could see Iris in September,
cool.
eh?
I'm already on it.
Yay, I love that. That's awesome.
Oh, that's great. And how is the fragrance described? Is it different in different varieties? Because I know with roses, for example, you've got the scent pyramid, and obviously with peonies, they've got slightly different. Is there differences to the fragrances?
We haven't really found like a way that irises are described with scent. It's sort of everyone seems to do it slightly differently.
Okay.
I haven't really got the nose or the way of describing it yet to sort of understand how to best.
You need to do a wine course.
Exactly. Yeah.
Don't get hidden, though. I need to learn stuff.
No, we definitely like to catalogue it eventually, though, because
Yeah.
obviously if you've got a really fragrant iris, don't put it at the back of the border. Put it somewhere where you can enjoy it.
Yeah,
Totally. And do you know when you often talk about fragrant flowers, where to plant them, you want fragrant flowers around your patio, by your back door or whatever, so when you walk by you smell it. I would never really think of putting an iris, do you know what I mean, in a place with fragrant plants, but I've totally changed my mind now after being here.
And of course there's so many different types. Like what we're looking at here mainly are the bearded Germanica types, but you've also got a few of the Sibiricas here, and you've got some of the dwarf ones as well.
That's right.
What are they called, the pygmies?
The dwarf irises.
Yeah.
So we've got a range of bearded irises from like 2.5-3 inches tall, all the way through to 52-54 inches tall. So there's a huge range of bearded irises. Well, there's about 1,040 odd varieties here at the moment. But we've also got Siberian irises, which are really versatile garden plants. They'll tolerate the shade and the moisture.
And they flower a little bit longer,
a little bit longer, a little bit later as well than the bearded iris. So yeah, good
Do
plants.
you sell to the public or to come like nurseries?
Yeah, so it's all retail. So we've got the gates open on the nursery every day through the summer and sort of springtime, and then we're doing more mail order. So that's another reason why I'm pushing my social media a bit.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Getting a bit of presence, and then hopefully we can offer lots and more of these varieties each year.
And that's the bare root.
That's bare root,
in the autumn, or when would you plant an iris?
So iris is best planted really in like August, September. So if you've got them
after
at
they've
home,
flowered,
exactly,
and had a bit of a rest.
about 4 to 6 weeks after flowering is optimum time to be lifting and dividing them. And then of course they're, apart from being quite trendy, they're on point with the environmental factor as well at the moment. So we can sell them as peat free, plastic free, environmentally sort of sourced packaging, so compostable packaging.
That's awesome.
So it's a brilliant way of being able to sell them as mail order plants. We're already peat free with the irises on the nursery, and peat free on 80% of our perennial plants. But it's a plastic thing that we kind of, if we can reduce that a bit, that would be great.
It always bugs me when I get mail order plants and they're wrapped up in plastic. Like there's so many other ways that you could do it. Like, even just newspaper. Paper bag. Give me all the paper. I wouldn't even mind if they were wrapped up in the sun.
And talking of sun, actually, because you need to leave the rhizome exposed, don't you? What happens if you don't?
You tend to find that they don't flower so much. Worst case scenario is if they're planted too deeply, that they can get wet and rot. That's quite an easy way of losing iris. If they're planted like a bulb, quite often people mistake them as a bulb and plant them sort of a few inches deeply. So the simple way to grow bearded iris is sticking by 3 points, planting depth, so that they're planted half in, half out the surface of the soil, so that sunshine can get to them. Well-drained soil, as much sunshine as you can get them, given that we're in the UK. I mean, at the moment we're having a good run of it. But that's why depth's important. So when you have those wet, sort of dull times, they can keep dry.
I think in years to come, iris will be in planting schemes for like dry gardens and that kind of thing. So
absolutely.
at the front of my house is a city house, is a tiny little garden, but right outside the window it is so hot and so dry, and the iris are stunning. They love it there.
But even just in leaf, they're a sexy plant. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
you don't necessarily need the blooms.
They're very different to most things. But I mean, back to your point about dry gardens, again, the environmental thing, the climate change. I mean, we're looking at hot summers, wet, longer, prolonged winters and what have you. I mean, they're just absolutely right for sustainable planting.
I want to see them at Beth Chatto. I haven't seen the iris in her dry garden.
I don't feel like I have either. I haven't been at the
there you go. Come on. We want to see your iris
to-do
there.
list.
Right, I know this is the most cheesy question ever to ask.
Typical from you, Ellen.
Here we go.
Do you have a favourite?
My answer to that question every time is everyone's got its own attributes, but you can't beat 1,000 varieties all out at once.
Okay. Thank you. That was good and confusing.
That was
a politician's answer, wasn't it?
Oh my God.
Have you got a favourite?
Oh, today it was. What did I say to you? Smelled of raspberries. What was that?
Cameo wine?
Cameo wine, yeah. That's beautiful, and it's this lovely pink colour. And I think, to be honest, I've been taking loads of pictures, but there's some of them that are more metallic, and it'll never come out on a picture, will it? It's really, like it's frustrating and beautiful all at the same time, but it's just I love it. And there was a black and white one, Domino Noir. That was amazing.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Although he said to me, "Oh, you did work in marketing, didn't you? Because it's not really black and white, obviously, but it's black and white in to us."
It looks as black and white as it's gonna get. You know, it's like blue. I posted the other day about not having there's no actual blue in nature, but there's some here that are as close to blue as you're gonna get, and they're pretty cool.
That's why iris breeding is so prolific, because there's certain varieties that people are really striving for.
Right.
Really clean black being one of those, and then those combinations like the black and white in certain ways. So some people want them one way or another way, have a market for it. So iris breeding, particularly in America, is huge. There's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of varieties.
Wow.
So there's so many to choose from.
How very cool is that?
Oh my God.
We're just sitting here in the sunshine, surrounded by iris beds. Sometimes I feel like super lucky to do what we do. I know there's no such thing as luck, but I genuinely sometimes, like when we're sitting somewhere like this, just go, wow, we made this happen. You made all of that happen, Chris. We made getting here happen. We're all happy. There's worse places to be to do a gossip on the podcast.
But we've only gossiped about iris. What about some more topical gossip?
Well, tell me something topical you'd like to talk about.
I don't know. Well, it was very last night on social media. I put up a post about like plant snobbery, and I was really interested in how much that piqued people's interest. Peak with a Q-U-E, I must point out. And so I think let's talk about that for a minute, really, because do you know what? Pelargoniums, the annual ones, I'll always call them geraniums, you know? And it's like, why do you need to correct me? Why? Or clematis. Who cares how you say it? Just grow it, you know? What do you guys think?
Just enjoy it.
It drives me nuts.
I don't think that there is any room in horticulture for snobbery in any way, shape or form. We have to just completely get rid of it. And actually over the last year, as we've said loads on the podcast, there's been loads of stuff online and in the press. How many more people have enjoyed nature gardening, growing their first carrot, planting their first tree, whatever in the garden. Those new people to gardening must not be put off by an industry that has this layer of snobbishness, because that is scary for people and it's super off-putting. And let's face it, we don't know it all. You grow irises here, you are the plant geek, I'm just a organic gardener.
There's no way I know everything.
Everybody does their thing. It's impossible to know it all, so we need to just stamp that kind of layer of snobbery out for sure. And Chris agrees, but he'll be very political about it because he's a business owner.
That's it. No, I'm a completely unqualified, nursery owner now. As I explained, a chance buy of a nursery means I'm in a position now of, that people come to me for advice. Yeah. And I always say to them, I'm not an expert. I don't believe that there are really experts in this game.
I agree.
This season, look at this season. It's such a different season to so many we've had before.
Yeah.
Everything you do in growing changes, so the advice you give is great for the moment you give it, but realistically, just try it, give it a go.
Yeah, that's so true. Like everything changes, so like the climate changes, every year is different. There's new technologies, there's new plants, there's new breeding. It's just massive. Like even Monty Don doesn't know it all.
Exactly, and certain people like certain gardens. Some people only plant perennial plants.
Yeah.
Some only bedding. Some only plant
don't
shrubs.
Laugh at people because they plant bedding or a hanging basket or
just enjoy what you're doing. And
I know. And
screw the rest.
You talk about qualifications. That's really interesting because I think when you've got qualifications, that doesn't necessarily mean you've got the passion. Do you know what I mean?
That's true.
So passion is almost more important. Yeah, exactly. So
that's very true.
From my point of view, in the past 3 years, I get an awful lot of people who know really, really well, the names and the botany side of the plant, but admit they can't grow it.
Yeah.
And it's getting those growers into the system that maybe they don't know the names, but essentially all we're trying to do here is grow plants and better the environment. So.
Totally.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I love that. You're literally living the dream, by the way.
Have you got any chickens? Because that would be really living the dream.
No.
So there you go. Put them on your to-do list.
That's it. A nice fluffy Labrador.
Could I have chickens?
And you've got little Seb as well who helps
That's
you
right,
out.
So Seb's 7 at the moment, and we've got little Jasmine, my daughter.
He's own little nursery, isn't he?
Yes, so he propagates a lot of the alpine plants.
Oh my gosh, they must love it here, being outside.
But it's a great example of, just getting on and trying it. He's doing really well out of it. So.
I love that.
Yeah,
cool.
Well, I'm super happy today.
Yeah, good.
I know you are because you've been skipping.
I know. But skipping's hard. I haven't got the mechanics for it.
Giving it a go.
Oh dear. I also can't. What's that thing? Roll my tongue. Is it roll your tongue? I don't. There's something I can't do.
Well,
I
as
can't
in
remember what it is now.
roll it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't either. Could you tell? Okay, none of us can
But there's
roll
no
like
reason that's relevant.
Well, thank you so much
That's no
for
problem.
coming on the podcast at very short notice and for being a grower and a fabulous grower at that.
Cool.
Thank you for visiting.
Thank you.
The music for the Plant-Based Podcast is part of the song Grow by Mikey James, and our editor is Gareth Patch of Semi Echo.